Here's the reality. Tommy's right. It's not just race, though. It's also sexuality. Caitlin Clark is a white heterosexual woman in a black, and they resent and are jealous of all of the attention and the shoe deal that she got.
She's going to face a level of racism from black players.
Diamond DeSheilds received racist threats after Caitlin Clark flagrant foul.
Right now, the Chicago Sky is really letting down the sport. Honestly, they're starting to look bad for basketball as a whole.
We'll be very jealous, and that I think is going to be a monster problem. I hope they get over it for the winning. Guys like to win, even if they're not the star. Well, great, we'll get a championship. Everybody jump on Michael Jordan's back. Everybody jump on Larry Bird's back. I don't know if that'll happen with Caitlin Clark.
At this point, there's enough evidence to suggest something's off. Only they know if their actions are deliberate, but there's definitely a trend here. It seems like they're consistently taking cheap shots at their opponents. For instance, they clearly went after Caitlin Clark in the opening game of the season, which felt like a grudge match. That was the first time we really saw them resort to those tactics against her.
Caitlin Clark, by the way, absolutely silenced everybody yesterday. You don't need anything extra. You just need to conduct yourself in a way. You have a choice. Am I going to walk around as a sports icon superstar, or am I going to sell my ass to Sports Illustrated and Instagram? Nobody puts a gun to your head. The money's good, but there's a lot that comes with it.
Today we saw some cheap shots, and it was pretty noticeable. Marina Mary got hit hard on her very first possession of the game.
I'm saying, but at the end of the day, this is hoops, it's competitive, and this is basketball. And you're playing against somebody like me, I classify myself as a dog. So if you're gonna throw a punch, then I'm gonna compete with you. I'm gonna play at the level that you're given. So that's just the player that I am.
Everybody in the league should be ready for it, not just the rookies.
Caitlin Clark also faced a cheap shot during garbage time. Honestly, I'm not sure what to make of all this. The reason I'm starting to think there might be some intent behind it is that right after Caitlin Clark made a three-pointer over Cardoso, it's worth noting that Caitlin had just made an incredible shot and was celebrating as she ran back. Then in the first play, Caitlin got tangled up when Michaela Onyenwere landed on her foot.
Hey, LeBron, you're 100% right on these girls hating on Caitlin Clark. Y'all petty, girls. I expect men to be petty because we're the most insecure group in the world.
Nothing major happened, but in basketball, you typically don't throw your body into a contest like that. It could just be reckless play, and maybe it's not intentional. From what I've seen, Michaela doesn't seem like the type to be overly aggressive, but perhaps she was told to be tougher in contests and just went for it.
I mean, coming into a league that is super competitive with amazing talent here, like, I wasn't coming in here expecting it to be easy because of the name I have. I'm playing for the name in front of me. I'm playing with the letters across my chest. So understanding that and understanding what that comes with, we all we got, we all we need.
Players do that sometimes. Marina Mowbray gets hit with a cheap shot, but that's not the main issue here. The refs made the right call. It was definitely a flagrant one. I totally agree with their decision on that play. Now, whether it was intentional or not is up for debate. If you think it was on purpose, I won't argue with you. It's possible, but I personally don't believe it was intentional.
I played in the WNBA for 10 years, and when you are a #1 pick, which I was 10 years ago, I know I'm starting to feel old, you do have a target on your back. You came into the league as the top dog in college, and now professional players whom you're going up against want to show you why they are on top.
And there was this other play that was clearly intentional. Caitlin Clark gets the ball after a turnover and is pushing against Diamond DeSheilds. If you look at the path Diamond takes, it's obvious she's not going for the ball. She goes straight for Caitlin, and not only that, she makes contact with her knee too. It's pretty blatant. After that, Caitlin jumps up and runs to the bench, which isn't caught on camera. It looks like she's trying to help out, probably to avoid looking like it was on purpose.
She was cooking.
Yeah,
she was cooking.
She's a hooper now. She's a bona fide hooper.
But then she sprints to the bench, trying to distance herself from the situation. And let's not forget, she hits those free throws for a career high while they're down by 25 points. Honestly, that's a cheap shot, no matter how you slice it.
You're going to make these women multimillionaires one day, like Tiger, like MJ. We shouldn't hate on her. We should celebrate her, not tolerate her. Now, I know somebody who said exactly what she said, but said it 4 months ago.
I'll say this, while I'm willing to give some grace, I haven't seen anything that suggests Diamond DeSheilds has a lot of malice. Sure, she did body check Caitlin Clark off the ball, but I wouldn't go as far as to call it a body check. The possession before that, Caitlin was already pushed off by Diamond. Then, on the next play, she gets hit hard from behind. If that first incident hadn't happened, maybe you could cut Diamond some slack, but given everything that's gone down, I'm not so sure you can.
Diamond DeShields received racist threats after Caitlin Clark flagrant foul. Many are attributing this to Chicago's sometimes cover foul ball. Two things can be true, Ocho. Yeah. You can say the play against Caitlin Clark, it wasn't okay. It was a flagrant foul. Yeah. They called it. That is football. They don't do that in basketball. She didn't make a play on the ball. She ran into her. She sideswiped. Mm-hmm.
If this were just a one-time thing, it wouldn't be a big deal. And let's be clear, the Chicago Sky aren't out there cheap shooting everyone like the bad boy Pistons used to. But they did smack Marina Mabrey in the face during her first possession against her old team, and she didn't even make it through the first quarter without being cheap shotted. Honestly, I believe they were trying to hurt Caitlin Clark. It seems like their goal was to rough her up, not necessarily to injure her, but definitely to make it tough for her. We've seen them hit her hard before, and there's a difference between a hard hit that doesn't risk injury and what we've seen here. These weren't just hard hits, they had the potential to hurt. I hate to say it, but with the play from Michaela Onyenware, you could chalk that up to reckless play. That's a fair assumption. I'm willing to consider that it was reckless play. However, Diamond DeShields definitely body-checked Caitlin Clark off the ball during the previous possession, and there's no way you can accidentally do what she did.
Media take, she's a woman. And a lot of these...
Heterosexual woman.
True, but yeah, woman nonetheless, so you get something on the victim scale for being a woman. And she's been historically oppressed, according to the same media that's going to be ripping her. They're generally uncomfortable with ripping women the same way that they do men.
She had the chance to get in front, but instead, she leaned back and hit Caitlin with her arm.
We saw that before. Right. Okay, they called a flagrant foul. Okay, just because it was a flagrant foul, it doesn't in turn give you the right to send racists and threats.
You know how people are, huh? You know how people are.
No, yeah, it's not right there. Yeah, I know. Yes, of course.
The only excuse for hitting her from behind would be if she was going for a steal, but that wasn't the case. She made a mistake, plain and simple.
We would not have been talking about it. We're talking about it because it's Caitlin Clark. So if we know that, then we're recognizing the cachet that Caitlin Clark brings. And all I'm saying is, ride that wave.
What's even more interesting is that this happened while they were down by 25 points. It was obviously a frustration foul because they couldn't handle Caitlin Clark, who ended up setting her career high against them. Just to give you some context, a couple of possessions earlier, Caitlin had shot a 40-footer that missed, then stopped mid-fast break instead of going for a layup and pulled off this amazing behind-the-back move. She was clearly toying with them. Now, I don't mind a little off-ball contact. It's part of the game and usually doesn't lead to injury. The WNBA is really promoting this rivalry. The only reason I might think there's some malice from Michaela Onyenware is that the foul happened right after a timeout. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, especially since Michaela has been playing well and doesn't seem like a dirty player. And I actually like Diamond DeShields. It's impressive that she's even on the court. I appreciate these players, but it feels like the coaching staff might be pushing this aggressive style. They seem to want to emulate the bad boy Pistons, but that kind of play has no place in 2024. Simply put, there's no room for cheap shots today. There's enough evidence to suggest that the only ones who truly know if they're cheap shot artists are the players on the Chicago Sky. There's definitely enough evidence to suggest they might be cheap shot artists. That's all I'll say on that. It's pretty embarrassing, honestly. They really went out in a disappointing way. I'll cover the double-doubles in another video, but they lost in a really bad fashion.
Game series, I think they could. If they ended up matching up with Minnesota, do I think they could beat them the way Minnesota's playing? I don't. But depending on the matchups, I don't think it's ridiculous to think that Indiana Fever this year could make it to the semifinals because, of course, the WNBA, if you win your first round series, that's where you are in the semifinals. If we were having this conversation when they were 2-8 or 2-9 or however they started the season, it would have been a ridiculous thing to think. It no longer is because of the way they're playing.
In their fourth game of the 2024 WNBA season, the Indiana Fever came back to beat the Chicago Sky. Rookie sensation Caitlin Clark led the charge with a career-high 31 points, also contributing 12 assists. The Fever's triumph secured their season series against the Sky. The Sky commenced the game forcefully, racing to a 21-9 lead midway through the initial quarter, hinting at a potential blowout of the Fever. However, Kelsey Mitchell and Lexi Hull aided Indiana in reducing the deficit to 26-23 by the end of the quarter. Clark knotted the game at 29 with a three-pointer, and followed up with another three to take the lead. From that point on, the Fever seized control, swiftly constructing a double-digit advantage. Chicago maintained a close game throughout the third quarter, but Angel Reese and Michaela Onyenware each accumulated 4 personal fouls, which impacted the Sky's defensive intensity. Clark knocked down 5 of 9 three-pointers and went an impressive 10 for 11 from the free throw line. Mitchell contributed with 23 points, while Nalissa Smith chipped in 14 points and grabbed 7 rebounds. Hull kept her shooting streak alive, sinking 3 of 4 from beyond the arc, finishing with a total of 11 points. Reese put up 10 points and pulled down 11 rebounds, marking her 23rd double-double of the season, which set a new WNBA record for rookies, previously held by Tina Charles. Michaela Onyenware led the Sky with 20 points, and Lindsay Allen added 19 points along with 4 rebounds and 6 assists. Camila Cardozo also recorded 10 rebounds. The Sky played without their top scorer, Chennedy Carter, 17.2 points per game, who was sidelined due to health and safety protocols. Chicago certainly felt her absence, especially her tough defense against Clark, though Diamond DeSheilds made an effort to step up with a physical play on the Fever star late in the fourth quarter. Among the countless admirers of Caitlin Clark's skills is NBA legend LeBron James. James took to X to express his admiration for the young guard, describing her as cold in reference to her remarkable performance on the court. Clark's ability to maneuver through defensive pressure and create scoring opportunities for herself and her teammates was nothing short of spectacular. Her precise shooting, including 5 successful three-pointers, demonstrated her versatility and composure under pressure. With this stellar performance, Caitlin Clark not only strengthened her case for the WNBA Rookie of the Year award, but also etched her name in the league's history books. Her 30-point, 12-assist game against the Sky made her the first player ever to achieve such a feat in a single game, underscoring her exceptional skills and impact on the court. Following his initial post, LeBron couldn't contain his excitement, hyping up Caitlin Clark with the tweet, "Caitlin Clark! Hi haters." While Clark dominated the spotlight with her record-setting performance, her teammates also stepped up with strong contributions from Kelsey Mitchell, Nalissa Smith, and Lexi Hull, which helped secure the victory against the Sky.
Both of our teams are competing for playoff spots. Like, that's our main focus. That's a selfish thing to just care about an individual award, and she would give you the same exact answer.
And one thing Caitlin Clark does maybe better than anybody in sports right now, makes it about others, makes it about team. Think about it.
She also has to sit there like she can't hear us talking about her, which is handling wonderfully. Caitlin, proud of you on all fronts, but proud of you for handling this.
Chicago Sky's coach, Teresa Spoon, found herself completely outmatched by Caitlin Clark's brilliance today. It's unclear if her strategy was to neutralize Clark.
You saw in the second half of the season and the second half of this game, the team that was more together. The team that was more together was clearly the Indiana Fever, and the Indiana Fever routed the Chicago Sky.
Now let's discuss the key issue. This is something that needs to be addressed. Teresa W. Spoon, prior to the game, had this to say.
When you talk about watching a team grow and you talk about gaining that chemistry that you want for any of your teams to have, and when you've had an opportunity to play them and then have an opportunity to watch them play, you see that they're really gelling well together, playing extremely well together. And Caitlin is the head of that snake, and she has that team running and utilizing every bit of everybody's gift. So they're playing extremely good basketball. So it is about a 40 minutes of total focus and execution for us against this team.
What about Caitlin Clark? Watching the team evolve, you notice they're developing the chemistry any team would want. Having played against them and then watching them play, it's clear they're really coming together.
What does together mean? Man, oh man, when Caitlin Clark does something, everybody celebrates. When Caitlin Clark does something, there is no jealousy. Early in the year, I felt like we saw a lot of jealousy. I felt like we saw a lot of people kind of side-eyeing. The great Joby Wright, great player at Indiana, assistant coach Indiana basketball, used to call it under-eyeing. I'm under-eyeing you. I felt there was a lot of that going on with Caitlin Clark, but really since the end of the first half of the season, you don't see it anymore.
Playing excellent basketball. Caitlin is the driving force behind that, making sure everyone's talents are fully utilized, so they're playing exceptionally well. It's going to require 40 minutes of intense focus and flawless execution from us to compete with them. So, she clearly acknowledged before the game that Clark was the central figure, the driving force.
And one thing Caitlin Clark does maybe better than anybody in sports right now, makes it about others, makes it about team. Think about it. When's the last time you didn't see Caitlin Clark talking about a teammate? When's the last time you saw Caitlin Clark talking about herself or any of the accomplishments that she has had? Let me give you the answer to that. Never! Never! You never hear that. Now, that's why their team has gotten good. She could have been an egomaniac. Everybody in the league knows that she is the league right now. Are you kidding me?
And it's clear that while Kelsey Mitchell might consider herself the top player on this team, Caitlin Clark is the one leading them. Right now, there's only one point guard like her in the WNBA, number 22 from Iowa, playing in Indiana.
Now let's go to the Chicago Sky. Chicago Sky are falling off the map in the second half of the season. Why? Well, they got a star, right? Everybody tells me Angel Reese is an absolute star. Look at all the double-doubles. Oh, my God. Well, Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky have made it about Angel Reese, not about the Chicago Sky. Even last night, if you look at it, what they have? Barbie night. We're giving out towels, blah, 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 blah. And when you see Angel Reese, what does she do? She's walking in with look at me outfits. It's about me. When you see Caitlin Clark, what do you see? It's about we.
As we've seen before, Teresa W. Spoon's strategy seemed to involve keeping Angel Reese in the game to secure a double-double. There were multiple efforts to disrupt Caitlin Clark, not to injure her, but certainly to throw her off her game. Yet Teresa had no effective solution. I'm curious about what she mentioned during the press conference, as the Chicago Sky held theirs after the game. It usually takes about 12 to 13 minutes for the Sky to start their press conference, with W. Spoon arriving near the end. I'm always interested in the question she has to answer.
How are you going to use this as a measuring stick to assess whether or not maybe some changes need to happen?
Dominating the paint is crucial, especially when they control the paint. However, it's tough to dominate when you're shooting 30%. For instance, Cardoso couldn't find any success. What are they missing? This marks their 5th consecutive loss, this time by 19 points after the previous 4 losses were by no more than 4 points.
I think me and Angel would both give you the same answer, like, you don't wake up and think about individual awards. I know that's what all of you think we do. I know we don't. Like, that's what everybody wants to make this about, but like, we both of our teams are competing for playoff spots. Like, that's our main focus. That's a selfish thing to just care about an individual award, and she would give you the same exact answer. I'm sure she has given you the same exact answer. So,
what's missing from this team? There are several issues that need addressing, beginning with defense. They identify as a defensive team, but I'll say it, they no longer play defense. I'm making it clear. This team no longer defends. They claim to be defensive-minded, yet they got rid of their weakest defender, Marina Mabrey, and still don't defend.
Well, it was so great because that's what you see online, right? Is Angel Reese only rebounds like this, especially on the offensive end, because she gets so many of her own misses. So I was like, well, I wonder how many of her own misses she actually gets. And what the Sports and Information Group came back with is the number, I think it was like 55 of her offensive rebounds at the time were off of her own misses. Well, if you do a little bit of math, you realize she would still be leading the league in offensive rebounds per game if you took away all of her own misses. And that's not if you also took away other people's misses. Of course, every player, especially big players, get some of their offensive rebounds off of their own misses. So if you just take hers away and let everybody else keep theirs, she still leads the league in offensive rebounds.